artists and entrepreneurs. Young people in Lancashire's libraries, museums and galleries bring the project to life by running the Blaze Festival. And over the next 2 years, Matt's going to work with curious minds to establish an independent future for Blaze, at which point he's going to take on the official role as director. So,
thanks.
Away.
Brilliant talks from both of you guys. And I was struck this morning in the plenary listening to people talking from all over the world representing culture. I was particularly taken aback by Professor Abdul Karim, I think his name is, from Syria. And I was just sat there kind of really in awe, in a way, trying to put myself in the shoes of someone like him who is very passionate about culture, quite obviously, but is in the midst of devastating conflict. He said the work that he's done has managed to preserve 99% of museum objects. He also mentioned, he was talking about media obligations that kind of didn't speak favourably of arts and culture. Why protect heritage when there's much more going on in the country? And I think he demonstrated extraordinary leadership, but not exceptional leadership. And I mean that in the grand scheme of leadership and what everyone here is able to achieve. I do this everywhere I go. Who here is comfortable calling themselves a leader? Anyone? A few. It's interesting because no matter where I go, there's always an abundant amount of people who don't raise their hands. And I reckon that's because we've kind of made leadership into something that we'll never attain. We'll never reach that title. Maybe one day we will if we do something extraordinary. And we've kind of made leadership about changing the world, which I think is the complete opposite of what leadership really is. The title leader has been given a certain expectation, one that we'd have to be rather cocky or arrogant to put our hands up and say, you know, I'm comfortable doing that. And we've made such a big deal of extraordinary leadership that we'll never really be able to amass to such expectation. And I really worry that we kind of spend too much time admiring the amazing work people do, like celebrities and the people maybe talking here this morning, but we don't spend enough time celebrating what each and every one of us can achieve. Everyone has the possibility to be someone else's catalyst. I was going through some old photo albums a couple of weeks ago, and to paint a bit of a background story, my mum's from Poland. She was born in 1956, and in Poland at that time, the kind of post-war communist society didn't really house or give art and culture, I believe, the necessary kind of outlet. She's a piano player. She studied rigorously classical piano, and I found this photo where she was basically sat at this piano, rather ambient looking, and next to her was a friend of hers, who later I found out was a poet and sculptor and artist. And in front of them both were 40, 50 people sat cross-legged, looking rather scruffy, just all looking up at the art that was happening in front of them. I was thinking, what is this? You know, what is this? Tell me more. So basically, he was a famous poet and art collector and painter himself, and had a beautiful property with a small gallery, piano, instruments, and every weekend, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, it would be open to the public. Anyone could come to the countryside in Poland, eat, share food, share stories, and listen to exceptional art. And people from all over Poland would backpack, hitchhike, mainly homeless people, people who you would never expect to engage in such, I guess, almost elitist art in a way, but they absolutely did. He did it for 40 years, continued engaging people in that capacity. And I was speaking with my mum about it, and she reckons that he probably reached over 100,000 people, most of which were from really deprived backgrounds. He raised their aspirations incredibly by giving them a sense of emotion and feeling and well-being. And at least 1,000 of those became artists themselves, after being given the opportunity to see, express in their own capacity, not being forced on them. They had to travel there to experience it. People were inspired enough to create their own artwork. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I believe he's anonymous. He really is, but he's extraordinary. And he was a catalyst for so many people. So many people. He never took credit for it. Nowhere in the media did they speak of what he did. Every weekend, Christmas, Easter, no matter what time of year, people could come, eat, listen, and experience. And I think we can all take away something from that. Being a leader doesn't mean we have to be the voice of everything. Actually, I believe it's kind of the opposite. It was demonstrated brilliantly in that 3-minute video you showed, and the talker spoke about it wasn't the person who stood up topless. It was the person who, the 5, 6, 7, 8 followers who came afterwards. All of those people who he touched became advocates, and that allowed this centre for art to flourish. Today we kind of have big meetings about that kind of thing. We meet with hundreds of people trying to make decisions and vision different concepts, of engaging perhaps young people in art, maybe people from disadvantaged backgrounds and communities. No meetings, no Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, but yet thousands of people came all the time. I run a project called Blaze. It started in 2012 as part of the Olympic Games. It was commissioned by Lancashire County Council, the Arts Council England, Blackpool City Council, and a wide host of other partners too. And the idea of it was to bring together a team of young producers from all over the Northwest to run Blaze Festival, a festival of art and culture, from conception to completion, where young people would take pivotal roles in making it happen. They worked in collaboration and co-created with professional artists, entrepreneurs, people from digital backgrounds, people from sports, you name it. They worked in collaboration and co-created with a wide range of people. When that came to an end, actually I think it's important to know I was one of those young people in that team, one of 25 locally, but across the whole of Lancashire there were at least another 1,000 people like me. When that came to an end, the funding did also. Naturally, the Olympic Games came to an end. We evaluated it and shared our findings. But I kind of went on my own journey. I didn't carry on being involved. I kind of went on my own path, and I began running music projects for a company called Brighter Sound, who run residencies with artists like Kendrick Lamar, Beth Orton, recently Anna Meredith, one that's just been announced last week, Imogen Heap, where young people, emerging artists, work together in intense periods of time to create amazing new pieces of music. So I learned a lot from that as a model, co-creating with famous people, breaking down those barriers completely as co-creators, creating new work that is celebrated by everyone. And in 2015 I saw a job advert for someone to run Blaze. I thought, wow, can't believe it's still going, fantastic. I was kind of on the sidelines at this point. But I went for it and was fortunate enough to get the job. And there were some things that were set in stone for me to realise. We had funding secured already, there were particular objectives, but one thing remained the same, was for young people to run Blaze Festival. Since then it's happened in libraries, museums and galleries across Lancashire in 8 different areas, where groups of young people from all different kinds of backgrounds, communities and districts come together to share ideas, realise them and make them happen with guidance from professionals who co-create together. Sadly, we lost pretty much all of our funding at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016. And I was on a bit of a mission. I didn't want to come into this, run a project for 10 months and then be the demise of it. You know, how good would that be, going into an interview saying, you know, actually I was at the demise of this project. So I kind of, you know, I had all of the necessary conversations and advocated for the work we had done and the legacy of why it was born in the first place. And we were fortunate enough to strike a partnership and what's turned out to be an amazing one with a company called Curious Minds, who are the Northwest Bridge organisation for the Arts Council. They do a lot of strategic work. They don't actually deliver work with any young people, but they facilitate big kind of partnerships to make our work easier and allow us to engage more people. And their kind of face spoke a little bit from the biography in the book. They've kind of agreed to work with me, give me a lot of support, training, advice, nurturing, really, to be at a stage where I could comfortably take Blaze on as an independent organisation and really shape it into something new. So that's the bulk of our work. I did have a presentation, and it's quite nice as well. One of the young people we work with is a designer. He's doing loads of design work for us at the moment, and he designed us a presentation. And it's really great and branded, but I won't show you because it's kind of irrelevant to what I've talked about. But some statistics. So we basically engage 850 young producers, and we define that as a young person who comes and engages and runs the festival, essentially, for at least a year. That's a considerable amount of time. Many people face lots of social and geographic barriers because we're in quite a rural part of the northwest of England. We've engaged over 5,000 participants. They also have taken a leadership role, but in a smaller capacity, i.e. less than a year. We've collaborated with more than 50 arts and young people's organisations across the world. Over 300,000 people have come to physically watch our performances, which have been created, again, by young people, and delivered over 20,000 hours of training. And I hope that this is just the start of what can be a catalyst for us to develop anonymous extraordinaries. Not all the young people we work with are going to change the world. Not all of them want to. I reckon the majority of them don't even want that responsibility, but what they all, and what I try and nurture in all of them, is the ability to be someone else's catalyst. Am I right for time? Yeah. Great. I've been trying to write a bit of a book. I'm not a writer by any means, but I've observed some great transformations in young people, and I want this book to be a publication of shared stories, basically, from people we've worked with. And I was thinking back, I was trying to think, you know, what is it something in us that, you know, are we born with this ability to be a leader? I reckon we are, but to an extent. So I started thinking, when was the first time that maybe I could recognise that I did something that added value in a situation? Something I did that was creative, innovative, original. And I remember on the first day of high school, I was super nervous, introvert by nature, and our very first lesson, we were supposed to have like physics or something like that, and our teacher was absent, so we had this substitute teacher who was already at this point, bear in mind we were here for the first day, we already knew he was like the strictest teacher, so everyone was kind of like lining up, you know, ready to go into our classroom, and we walk in, and the classroom's an absolute mess, and he says, right, I want you to rearrange the room. So everyone kind of looked at each other like, what? How do you want us to do it, sir? People were saying things like that. He just ignored us all. After about 10-15 minutes of, you know, conflict and resolution, yeah, we should do it this way, maybe that way, we kind of came to an agreement. We sat down, took our books out, you know, we're ready to resume the lesson, and he grabbed me by the arm and stood me up. I thought I was in the biggest trouble ever. Sweating, you know, my palms were ready, my hand, you know, between my head between my legs, and he said, "Can anyone tell me what Matthew is?" And I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to be the biggest ridicule of my life. I'm not ready for this. And he said, no one answered, of course. Maybe some jokes here and there. But what he said is, what Matthew is a leader. And I sat back down. I was like, get off me. I just want to sit back down. I don't want to be part of this. And it wasn't until recently, when I've been writing about all this, that I thought maybe, just maybe, he was my catalyst. Cheers.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic. That was great. I think we'll all agree they were three amazing speakers, so we just thank them all.